Hey, it's Nate Savage here with Guitar Foundations. That is it for the preliminaries. We're going to jump into actually playing the guitar now by taking a look at how to strum the guitar. And when you're first starting out, there's so many things going on with the guitar. I know making clean chords, transitioning between chords, staying aware of your timing and where you are in a song, strumming, that it can be tough to kind of put them all together. So one secret or one thing that we're going to kind of implement throughout these videos is separating the challenge and narrowing it down to one thing and developing that thing so you can get good at it and then adding a piece to it. That's going to help a lot. So we're going to take a look at your basic strumming technique and the things that you need to do to get that going. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any videos in this series, or you can go over to natesavage.com to sign up for priority notifications for when new lessons come out and things like that. So to get into this, before we actually physically start strumming the guitar, I have a strumming technique checklist for you that I want to go through, that I want you to read through several times if you have the Guitar Foundations book, and it's going to really help you as far as when you actually physically get the coordination down for strumming. So let's go through this list real quick. Number one, stay relaxed. And by that I mean don't tense up and have a death grip on the pick. What you want to do is just stay as relaxed as possible, have a really fluid motion. That's going to help you with a couple things. It's going to help you be able to actually get the pick through the strings, and it's going to help you be able to keep up with the tempo of the songs you're going to be playing later in this course. Number two, try a natural pick grip. And by that, I mean just set the pick down in front of you and pick it up in as natural a way as possible between your thumb and index finger. A lot of people obsess about pick grips and how you hold the pick, but for now, just pick it up as naturally as you can between your index finger and your thumb. And if you're not using a pick, just make that motion anyway, like you are holding a pick, and you can play like that. Or you can just use your thumb to strum, or you can use your finger, or a combination of your finger and thumb. But having a really relaxed, back to tip one, or item one on the strumming technique checklist, staying relaxed, and then just gripping the pick as naturally as possible to start. Number three, keep a light grip on the pick. If you get a death grip on the pick, it's going to be really tough to get through the strings, and it's going to make you tense up too. So it kind of comes back around to tip one as well. So if you have a light grip on the pick, what's going to happen is when you hit the strings, it's going to give a little bit, and it's going to glide through the strings. See how it gives one way when I strum down and another way when I strum up, right? The opposite way. And it's going to be tough to find the balance of having a relaxed pick grip at the beginning to where you're relaxed enough to where the pick is going through the strings, but you're not so relaxed that the pick flies out of your hand. But just play around with it and you will eventually strike that balance. Number four, try using two fingers with your pick grip if you're having trouble holding onto the pick, or you feel like you need a little more control. So instead of using just one finger like this, your index finger, what you can do is try two fingers. That gives you a little bit more control and a little bit more stability. I do both depending on what I'm playing, but that's something you're definitely going to want to just mess around with, especially if you're playing acoustic guitar with heavier strings with a little more tension on them, right? But all of these tips are going to work for both electric and acoustic. Number five, don't dig too much of the pick into the strings. And by that, I mean only use enough of the tip of the pick to make the strings sound out the way you want them to. What's going to happen if you dig too much of the pick into the strings? It's going to get caught in between the strings. So, and again, these are all just tips to keep in mind as we go through, your foundational strumming technique later. So just enough of the tip of the pick to make the noise you want. Number six, experiment with pick thicknesses. I really recommend that as a beginner, you start out with a just straight medium pick, maybe 0.7 or 0.8 millimeters. Any thicker than that, and it's probably going to present the challenge of having a light grip, pick grip. It's probably going to make that a little bit tougher because the thicker the pick, the lighter the grip you need for it to get through the strings. If you get too thin of a pick, like down towards 0.5 or 0.6 millimeters, it's going to be really clicky sounding, and you're going to get a lot of string noise, and you're not going to get the volume you want out of your guitar when you strum. So 0.7, 0.8 millimeters is a good place to start. Tip number seven, as we go through and work on this strumming technique, look back at your strumming hand. Actually look back and see what's going on down here, because you might see something that you thought you were doing all these tips, but when you actually look at it, you're like, wow, I'm really death gripping the pick, or I'm digging a lot of the pick into the strings, or I'm really tensing up. So just take some time, actually look back at your strumming hand, or another thing you can do is get a mirror, a small mirror, so you can see what's going on. or video yourself. This is a really good way to get instant feedback on how you're doing and some changes you might need to implement. Number 8, and this is an important one, don't use just your elbow to strum, especially when you're first starting out. If I use just my elbow like this, like lock my wrist, lock my fingers, and use just my elbow, it's going to get really rigid. It's going to open up the doorway to not be relaxed, and it's going to be harder to keep up with tempos of faster songs. And after a while, it does start to hurt a lot of people, like the tennis elbow feeling if you do that. So don't use just your elbow. I'm not saying don't use your elbow. I'm saying don't lock your wrist and your fingers and use just your elbow. And we'll get into this more in a second, but if you look at this, the motion that I'm using is using my elbow, but my wrists and fingers are involved as well, and like a rotational movement too. So just keep that in mind. Don't lock up and use just your elbow. Okay, that's the Guitar Technique Checklist, and you're going to want to read through that in the Guitar Foundations book several times. So all of those areas of technique are on the tip of your brain when you go through this basic strumming technique motion that we're going to learn right here. And everybody's going to be a little bit different, so take this with a grain of salt. But the basic motion that you need to think about when you're strumming is this right here. Take and pretend that there is some honey on your finger and that a piece or like a feather stuck to that honey, and you're just trying to flick it off. You can even drop your pick. Don't even use your pick. Just pretend like that feather is stuck on your pinky, some honey, and just try to flick it off like that. That is the basic motion you want to think about when you're strumming. If you look at that, my elbow is moving a little bit. The rotational movement, like opening a doorknob, is there, that forearm rotation, and my wrist is involved a little bit too, and my fingers are flexing, and I'm not tensing up. That's the thing. I'm not tensing up. If you think about strumming like this, you're not really able to tense up because you have to keep that really loose kind of rotational thing going. As soon as you do that a few times, pick up your pick, keep a loose grip on it, and just think about that same kind of technique. Hold on to the pick just enough to where it's not flying out of your hands, and then dig the pick into the strings. That's the basic movement you want to think about. And if you're not using a pick, you can use your fingers or your thumb in your fingers like you're holding a pick, or your thumb. And it's still the same motion. What I want you to do now is just take a few minutes, practice that kind of flicking motion, and then go read through the Strumming Technique Checklist again as you practice that, and think about it and see if any of those things are popping up that you need to correct. And if you need to video yourself, do that as well. I have a few exercises that I want to go through to help you develop the strumming technique, and they're really simple, but we're going to play them along to a metronome. At first, maybe don't play them with a metronome just to work on your technique, but you are going to want to incorporate a metronome at 60 or 70 beats per minute just to keep yourself on track and force yourself to stay in time. This first exercise is just playing all quarter notes with downstrokes to 70 beats per minute. Click. And all you're going to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. At first, do it without a metronome so you can go whatever speed you can keep things or hold things together with, keep things on the rails, So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? After that, once you're feeling comfortable with that, pull up a metronome and have it set to 70 beats per minute. Okay, I'll turn that up for you. And what I want you to do is just mute the strings. You can do that with your left hand, just so you can focus only on your strumming technique and just try to stay as in time as possible. Stay relaxed. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Think about that feather and honey analogy, staying relaxed, getting that rotational movement in there, having a light grip on the pick, not using too much of the pick, not digging too much of the pick into the strings. And that's where you want to live for a while. And the more you program this in now, the easier time you're going to have when you go add, chords to this, or you're playing through the song. The less you have to think about it. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's exercise 1. Exercise 2 presents a new problem area for guitar players, and that's upstrokes with your strumming. The reason upstrokes, I think the reason upstrokes are more difficult for guitar players is because we tend to focus on downstrokes so much. In the beginning, we kind of ignore the upstrokes and we're like, wow, why is this hard? So I'm going to give you a few tips here to make your upstrokes as easy as possible. It's the same basic technique, but there are a couple things you need to keep in mind even more for upstrokes. Number 1 is for upstrokes, you don't have to strum through all 6 strings for an upstroke, typically. I only use maybe the top 3 to 5 strings. And it's that same motion, that same flicking motion, right? But the second thing, besides hitting only the top 3 to 5 strings, is just using just barely enough of the pick to make the motion that you need, and keeping a really relaxed grip on the pick. If you tighten up your grip, this is what happens. That rotational movement goes away and you end up tensing up like this. So keep a loose grip, keep that rotational movement in there. Only use just enough of the tip of the pick to make the amount of noise you want on the guitar, and then just the top 3 to 5 strings. Don't feel like you have to hit all 6 strings with your upstrokes, right? Because that's what ends up happening too. You end up using too much elbow. But like I can just lock my elbow, not use it at all, and still do upstrokes. But get a little bit of elbow in there too. So that's exercise number 2, and this one may take a little bit longer for you to get down. So use it without a metronome, or do it without a metronome at first. Actually, let's do that. Just as slow as you need to. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really pay close attention to, look back at your strumming hand, video yourself if you need to, get a mirror to see what's going on there. And when you feel comfortable, put a metronome on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're gonna have to live with these 2 exercises for a while. They're gonna have to become a part of your daily practice routine. Spend some time on them. It doesn't take a ton of time, but like focused practice like this where you're not even thinking about your chords or anything like this will help you get this down faster. So 3 to 5 minutes a day on this kind of stuff will go a long way. The last exercise is just quarter notes mixing or alternating down and upstroke. So for 1, downstroke, then up on 2, down on 3, up on 4. And this is like the full technique for strumming that you want to focus on. If you need to go back and read all of the Strumming Technique Checklist again, now is the perfect time to do that, just to make sure that you're doing and implementing all of those tips. But it's the same exact motion. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice I'm going to play just any chord real quick, like a G. You'll notice my downstrokes generally hit all 6 strings, and then my upstrokes only hit the top 3 to 5. So just keep that in mind too. Back to muting so you can focus on the strumming. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the ultimate goal of this lesson. And this is the foundation that you need to have your strumming be really good, because we're going to develop this a lot more in coming lessons as we learn songs and go over some more intricate things as far as strumming patterns go. So do that without a metronome first, and then with a metronome. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure to stay relaxed. Keep that rotational movement in there. If you need to hold on with both fingers, 2 fingers with your strumming hand, it's fine. Don't dig too much of the pick into the strings. This is exactly how you want to practice this over the following days and weeks. Once you put in some time developing your strumming technique, you're going to want to implement this with the rhythm tree exercise that we did in the last lesson. And instead of tapping this time, we're just going to strum along to it. So you could put a metronome on at 70 beats per minute or 60, wherever's comfortable for you right now. And what you want to do is just start strumming whole notes. And you can do just downstrokes or alternating downstrokes, upstrokes, whatever you want. I'm going to do all downstrokes for the whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure to move another part of your body to stay on beat. 4. Think about all the technique tips we went over. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Move up to half notes when you're ready. 1, 2, 3. You can still use all downstrokes. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And you're ready. Move on to quarter notes. I'm still going to use all downstrokes. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can do alternating down and upstrokes. It's really up to you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure to stay relaxed. 2, right on the beat. 4, 1, 2, and then eventually you're going to want to move to 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Stay really aware of where the beat is. 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. And then work your way back down, quarter notes. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're new to guitar, this is a lot to think about all at once. So only worry about the technique at first, starting with the downstrokes. Go through the strumming technique checklist and just get your downstrokes down. Once you're feeling comfortable with that, do the upstrokes, then up and down together. Only then will you need to worry about going through the rhythm tree exercises with your strumming. So here are your assignments that you need to go through for this lesson. Number 1, go through all of the strumming technique tips on the strumming technique checklist several times. Number 2, work on your basic strumming technique motion with that feather and honey analogy. Number 3, work on the downstroke strumming exercise. Number 4, work on the strumming upstroke exercise. Number 5, the down and upstroke strumming exercise. And then finally, number 6, work on the rhythm tree, going all the way up and down the rhythm tree with a metronome at 60 or 70 beats per minute. That's it for this lesson. It may seem really simple right now, but dividing bigger challenges up into smaller bits or smaller components like this is going to help you so much in the future. So if you have any questions about strumming, how to develop this, you can leave them in the comments below or email me, nate@natesavage.com. Or if you need some extra help, you can go book a private lesson with me there. And I will see you in the next video where we're going to learn your first chord. That's it.